She gathered the women, not in the ruined shed, but under the large mango tree. They sat in the mud, rain still falling, and Povius spoke. Not a blame, but a shared loss, of shared strength. The spores is still there, she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Underground, hidden, but alive, like our spirit, like our hope. We rebuild, together. She organized work parties. They salvaged what they could, cleaned, disinfected, started anew. They used the flooded substrate, now composted, to enrich their kitchen gardens, turning disaster into nourishment. Povius's leadership wasn't loud. It was felt. Her calm in the storm, her ability to hold space for everyone's fear while projecting quiet resolve, inspired them. They rebuilt stronger, smarter, on higher ground. The storm had tested them, and in overcoming it, they discovered a resilience they never knew they possessed. Povius had navigated her own emotional tempest and emerged not unscathed, but whole. The blooming of Namagem Povius. Years flowed like the Nile, steady and life-giving. Povius's world was no longer gray. It was the deep, rich brown of fertile soil, the vibrant white of healthy spores, the warm gold of harvest sunlight. Her mushroom farm was a model. Eco-Agric Uganda featured her story. Women from neighboring villages, even other regions, came to learn. Povius taught with a quiet passion, her emotional intelligence now a finely tuned instrument. She could sense a learner's frustration, a community's tension, a child's unspoken need. She responded not with platitudes, but with presence, with empathy, with practical solutions born of hard-won experience. Cato thrived. He was top of his class, his eyes bright with curiosity, not dulled by hunger. Povius had funded his education, yes, but more importantly, she had given him the emotional security of a mother who was present, who felt, who connected. She had learned to love deeply, openly, without the paralyzing fear of loss that had once crippled her. She had even reconnected with Samuel, not as husband and wife, but as co-parents. He saw the change in her, the quiet strength, the thriving farm, the confident son. He found her closer to home. Their relationship was different, grounded in mutual respect and shared responsibility for Cato. Povius had achieved more than financial security. She had achieved emotional freedom. The heavy weight of silence and suppressed feeling had lifted. She could laugh loudly, cry freely, love fiercely. She understood that emotions, even the painful ones, were not enemies to be buried, but messengers. They told her what mattered, what needed attention, what needed healing. Her journey with the mushrooms had taught her that growth often starts in the dark, in the breakdown of the old, and requires patience, connection, and resilience. It was the Spore way, and it was her way. The ever-expanding network. Povius stood on a small rise overlooking Hoima. The setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange, pink, and purple. Below, the village hummed with life. Smoke curled from cooking fires, clean smoke from efficient Eco-Agric briquettes, not the acrid haze of burning waste. Children's laughter echoed. In the distance, she could see the roofs of several mushroom sheds, dotted like white mushrooms across the landscape. Her cooperative had spawned others. A network, a spore network of hope, resilience, and shared prosperity. Povius touched the small, perfect oyster mushroom she carried in her pocket, a reminder of where it all began. It felt cool alive. She thought of the women, the children like Cato, the men like Tom finding their way. She thought of the waste transformed, the lives rebuilt, the emotions embraced. The journey hadn't been easy. It had demanded courage. The courage to feel, to connect, to grow. But the harvest was abundant. Not just in kilograms of mushrooms or shillings earned, but in the quiet blooming of the human spirit. Povius Namagem had learned to cultivate more than fungi. She had learned to cultivate her own heart, and in doing so, had helped cultivate a community. The spores spread, unseen but vital, connecting lives, breaking down barriers, nourishing growth. It was the quiet magic of transformation, and Povius was its humble, joyful gardener. She smiled, a genuine, radiant expression that lit up her face. The dust of despair was long gone. In its place was the rich, fertile soil of a life fully lived, deeply felt, and beautifully connected. The spore heart of Hoima beat strong, and Povius Namagem, its gentle gardener, had finally learned to dance to its rhythm. The call to cultivate, extending the spore network. Adahura Povius' story is not merely a testament to personal resilience. It is a blueprint for collective renewal. Her journey, from the cracked earth of despair to the fertile ground of empowerment, reveals a profound truth. Transformation is not a solitary act, but a communal harvest. The spores that taught Povius to feel, to connect, and to grow now whispers a challenge to us all. It asks, what will you cultivate? The answer lies not in grand gestures alone, but in the quiet, persistent acts of nurturing hope, both within ourselves and in the world around us. Planting seeds of possibility, the power of direct support. Povius's first harvest began with a gift. The knowledge, the spawn, the simple plastic bag that held the promise of new life. Today, that same spark of possibility waits to be kindled in countless communities where waste is still seen as an end, not a beginning. To extend Povius's legacy, we must become planters of seeds. Consider the women in villages like Hoima, whose hands ache from hoeing unyielding soil and whose hearts ache with unspoken dreams. For just $50, you can provide a mushroom starter kit, substrate, spawn, training that transforms coffee husks and sawdust into sustenance. This is not charity, it is partnership. It is saying, I believe in the potential hidden in what others discard. For $500, you can build a community mushroom shed where 10 women gather, not just to grow fungi, but to grow confidence, connection, and economic independence. Each donation is a spore of change, landing in the fertile soil of human resilience. Act now. Visit Eco-Agric Uganda's Mushroom Fund. Let your contribution be the rain that nourishes the next Povius's first crop. Spreading the spores, amplifying the message of growth. Spores thrives on connection. It spreads silently, invisibly, weaving life-giving networks beneath our feet. Povius's story, too, must spread through communities across borders into hearts and minds. Her journey teaches that emotional intelligence is not a luxury, but a lifeline, and that waste transformation is not just ecological, but deeply human. Share Povius's story. Post it with hashtag SporeHeart. Tag 3 friends who understand that true empowerment grows from both the soil and the soul. Host a mushroom and mindfulness gathering in your home, school, or community. Share Povius's story. Post it with hashtag SporeHeart. Tag 3 friends who understand that true empowerment grows from both the soil and the soul. Host a mushroom and mindfulness gathering in your home, school, or community center. Screen Povius's journey. Discuss the profound link between cultivating fungi and cultivating emotional awareness. And cook a simple meal with oyster mushrooms. Download Eco-Agric Uganda's free toolkit to guide your gathering. Educate others. Take this story to schools, where children learn that science and compassion are intertwined. Share it in workplaces, where emotional intelligence fuels innovation. Every share, every conversation, every gathering is a new thread in the Spore network, strengthening the fabric of collective well-being.